Members of the J Area Pro Wrestling fans across the world, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. Welcome back to another edition of the J Area Wrestling Podcast. In today's episode, we're going to do something a little bit different in celebration of really the last 20 plus years of John Cena and WrestleMania. We're going to be looking back at every single WrestleMania event, revisiting, reviewing, and talking about every historic matchup that he had and determining what was his greatest matchup. John Cena, the leader of the C Nation, the leader of a generation, finally turns heel at the Elimination Chamber. We're now in uncharted waters when it comes to John Cena. We've seen him for so long competing against all the top heels in the company, and now for him to become the top heel in the company, it's certainly something that we've never seen before, and I don't think we can really predict what is the next move of John Cena. Obviously, if you're watching this episode of the podcast now, the episode of Monday Night Raw is probably already available on Netflix, being that it's from Belgium. So the fact that we have an updated John Cena, a new version of John Cena, is something, again, uncharted waters. The anticipation is that we're going to get new gear, new music, new attitude when it comes to John Cena now that he's going up against Cody Rhodes, who's the QB1, the top guy in WWE right now. He's now no longer the leader of his generation, the leader of the company, but fighting from under. And we could talk about John Cena and his heel turn to an extensive length, and we'll probably do so towards the end of the episode here. But let's start at the beginning, right? It was 2002, June to be specific, when John Cena made his debut in the open challenge for Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle obviously was one of the top guys in WWE at that point, one of the greatest wrestlers to ever do it, at an open challenge that John Cena would respond to. Kurt Angle asked him, what is the one quality that you possess that thinks that he can get into the ring with someone like Kurt Angle? And John Cena infamously would say, ruthless aggression, delivering a slap to Kurt Angle and ushering in a new era for the WWE. It wouldn't be all sunshine and rainbows at the beginning of his career, because he would struggle. He would struggle to be relevant on WWE TV. He would be struggling to develop a connection with that audience. At that point in time, John Cena was recognized as the guy that wore the shorts that really coincided with the town that he was visiting. If they were in Minnesota, he wore purple and gold for the Vikings. If he was in Boston, he wore white and green for the Celtics. And there was little to no advancement in his character. No one really cared at that point. It would be the fall of 2002, and John Cena was risking being released from his contract. Had a promising start in OVW, had a great debut against Kurt Angle, which was even followed by an Undertaker segment where he shook the hand of the dead man. And then now you're running the risk of being released in the fall of '02. It wouldn't be until the Halloween episode that we saw a new version of John Cena, dressed up in his costume as Vanilla Ice, rapping, freestyling for the other members of the roster, and it became a breath of fresh air for John. It revitalized that momentum that he had acquired during that early month in 2002. The story goes that at the back of a bus during one trip on the WWE tour, John Cena was heard freestyling with other members of the roster, and Stephanie McMahon overheard this and asked John Cena how would he feel about freestyling on live TV. That gave them the idea of the Dr. of Thugonomics gimmick, and John Cena took the ball and kept it rolling, having great moments such as rapping against The Undertaker, Rikishi, Kurt Angle as well. John Cena finally found his moment and finally found his part in the WWE universe. It was this that he turned heel, had this brash and cocky, arrogant type of a gimmick against the older guys, against the veterans, and establishing himself as the next man up. In 2003, he would have feuds against the likes of Brock Lesnar for the WWE title, The Undertaker in the summer, and later Kurt Angle. In fact, Kurt Angle is the last individual to make John Cena tap out at No Mercy in October of 2003. Shortly after, John Cena would turn babyface, aligning himself with Team Angle at the Survivor Series. This babyface turn would be the last time we saw John Cena turn in any sort of character, heel and babyface. Keep in mind, that's October of 2003. 22 years later, We all know what happens, right? We get to 2004, WrestleMania 20, where it all began again. Now, John Cena wasn't at WrestleMania 19 in a match capacity, rather, he was on the pre show seen freestyling with cutouts of other famous rappers. But in 2004, John Cena was on the rise. He was in the midst of the United States Championship division, and he fought against the Big Show, getting the victory and earning himself his very first title in the WWE. It was the opener to WrestleMania 20 and would set the stage for what would be a long and successful career for John Cena. Throughout the summer of 2004, he would be defending the title against the likes of Booker T, Rene Dupree, but then, once we hit the fall of '04, something changed. John Cena started beginning to gain more momentum, gained more stardom. In fact, it was around this time that he was filming the movie The Marine, his first foray into Hollywood. And in the 2005 Royal Rumble event, he was the last one eliminated from Dave Bautista in that Royal Rumble matchup that would guarantee them a championship opportunity. Although he would lose the Royal Rumble matchup, he would win a tournament that would allow him to challenge for the WWE title at WrestleMania 21 against John Bradshaw Layfield, better known as JBL. John Cena takes advantage of this opportunity and makes the most of it. The build-up to this matchup I thought was perfect. JBL, who is the rich billionaire who seems to think he's better than everybody because of his status. John Cena, who is the rapper, has the gimmick, is seen as a lower status than JBL, finally rises above it and gets the victory over JBL. It's amazing to think that this is only 3 years into his run on the main roster, and John Cena's already the WWE champion, a meteoric rise if there ever was one. John Cena would then debut a rap album, You Can't See Me. This was back in 2005. And March 17th, 2005, literally 20 years to the day, he would debut his obvious theme song, My Time Is Now. Iconic, everyone knows it if you're a pro wrestling fan or not. John Cena was here to stay. To see his level of success at this early of his career was astronomical. It was something different. He wasn't like your Stone Cold Steve Austin, like your Hulk Hogan, like your Bret Hart. He was a modern take on the top baby face. In 2005, this was when we really got to see John Cena solidify himself as a top guy, having feuds against Chris Jericho and Kurt Angle, but somewhere along the line, instead of being cheered like he usually was, John Cena began to be booed. Half of the crowd would chant, Let's go Cena. The other half would chant, Cena sucks. It was in the summer of '05 that we finally got to see that polarizing aspect of the John Cena character. He would go on to 2006 and defend his championship against Triple H. That's now 3 WrestleManias under his belt, one against the Big Show, one against JBL, and now against the King of Kings. Take nothing away from his matchup against JBL. I think it was a fine matchup. I'm not going to say it was match of the night, but for what it was, I thought it was enjoyable and memorable. But the match with Triple H was his first time really in the main event scene against someone with the caliber of a star of a Triple H. It was in Chicago, a very, very tough crowd for pro wrestling fans against a guy like John Cena, but he held his own. He held his own, had a great matchup against Triple H, defeated Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and would continue on the title reign as WWE champion. From then on out, John Cena would defend the title against the likes of Edge in a legendary feud in 2006. If you haven't seen their matchups, I highly suggest you do so. And it would be in 2006 that he would lose the title to Edge and then regain it back at Unforgiven 2006. This would lead a year-long title reign as WWE champion, but of course we're talking WrestleMania. And I would be remiss to not talk about WrestleMania 23, where he defends the title against Triple H's teammate, and Shawn Michaels. The original story was that he was going to defend it against Triple H in a rematch from the previous year's WrestleMania. However, Triple H would sustain an injury at New Year's Revolution in January, taking him out for nearly 7 months. And the audible was called to have Shawn Michaels challenge for that WWE title. And again, you look at his match against Triple H, and for me, that was the stepping stone for him. When we got to 23, it put him again on another level. Shawn Michaels, regarded as one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, and is often called Mr. WrestleMania for a reason. Their matchup at WrestleMania 23 goes down as one of the best matches of the night. I think the only one that would rival it of course, is the world title between Taker and Batista. But depending on your cup of tea, it really is all subjective. Shawn Michaels and John Cena would deliver a matchup here. It felt like a passing of the torch. I know he defeated JBL for the title. I know he defeated Triple H the year after. But with Shawn Michaels, it felt like it finally clicked. This is a main event guy. Had nothing else to prove. There were still questions about John Cena. Could he hang with the elite members of the WWE roster? Could he become a legend in his own right? And I feel like this was the matchup that really put him up there with all the other names in the WWE. Fast forward a year, it's 2008. The Royal Rumble is upon us, and John Cena makes his shocking return at number 30, the first time ever that John Cena really has this huge, monumental return. But the thing is, too, he was gone with a torn pec, and we're thinking he's going to be gone for quite some time. Makes a miraculous recovery, returns at the Rumble, wins the Rumble, and will challenge for the WWE title. It was at No Way Out, though, the following month in February, though, that he would invoke his title matchup against Randy Orton. He would ultimately lose by disqualification, and they would turn WrestleMania 24's WWE title matchup into a triple threat between Randy Orton, Triple H, and John Cena. Up until this point, John Cena has not lost. Won at WrestleMania 20, 21, 22, 23, but at WrestleMania 24, he suffers his first loss at WrestleMania. Even if he wasn't pinned, the fact is, he lost. Randy Orton would successfully defend his WWE title, defeating Triple H and John Cena, again elevating himself above everyone else on the card that night. It wasn't his best matchup, but it wasn't his worst. Up until this point, I think WrestleMania 23 still holds high regard against Shawn Michaels. It was a triple threat match at WrestleMania 24, and by the time we got to WrestleMania 25 in 2009, Houston, Texas, John Cena found himself in yet another triple threat match against Edge and The Big Show, this time for the World Heavyweight Championship, and it was a matchup that was surrounded in controversy regarding Vicky Guerrero. You see, WrestleMania 24 was really about who was going to be the best, who was the top guy and would become the WWE Champion. But with the World Championship, this is around the time now where WWE is kind of getting away from their storytelling and it's becoming a little bit more sillier, a little more goofier than I personally would have liked. They added the added aspect of Vicky Guerrero and whether or not she's going to align herself with the Big Show or her ex-husband Edge, and there's John Cena caught in the middle who really is just there for the World Championship. So it was a no-brainer that he would defeat both of them at WrestleMania 25 and gaining that victory. The only issue is on that night, The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels deliver an all-time classic. So I would not blame you if you do not remember this triple threat match at WrestleMania 25. I wouldn't blame you in the slightest. WrestleMania 26, as you all know, if you're diehard members of the J area, holds a very special place in my heart because it was the WrestleMania that we were able to attend. And at this one, John Cena versus Batista, the WWE title. We had a huge match against Triple H, Shawn Michaels, but now it took him a few years, 3 years to be exact, but we finally get a clash between two titans. In what was a solid match between Batista and Cena, it was really a callback to their early times in the Ruthless Aggression era. You see, there's always a pair when it comes to being the top guy. It was Hogan and Savage. There was Bret and Shawn, Austin and The Rock. And in 2005, we got a glimpse at the future at that Royal Rumble event that I had previously mentioned. Because Dave Batista and John Cena, two rising stars on their respective brands, finally clashed at WrestleMania 26. This time Batista was the heel. John Cena, of course, top babyface, why not, had their matchup at WrestleMania 26. And like what I said, was a solid matchup. John Cena would get the victory, notching another WWE title reign to his long resume. At this point in his career, though, John Cena wasn't really the fan favorite that we all knew and loved. Of course, he was still acting like the babyface. He was still presented as the top hero, but the fans grew tiresome. The fans were growing out of favor with John Cena, booing him whenever they had an opportunity. So at WrestleMania 27, when John Cena challenged, I should say, against The Miz for the WWE title, people wanted to cheer against John Cena. The only issue is they didn't want to cheer for The Miz. But the introduction of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson changes everything. Up until this point, John Cena is a made man. Doesn't need any other star to really elevate his stock. You know, his matchups against DX were solid. His matchup against Batista was good. But now with Dwayne The Rock Johnson being introduced into the equation, it changes the dynamic. It now makes it more of a generational type of a matchup. I feel bad for The Miz when it comes to this feud because he's really a forgotten part of it all. He actually gets the victory over John Cena, but prior to that, it was ruled a no contest on account that The Miz and John Cena were both counted out, and then The Rock restarts the matchup, gives the victory essentially to The Miz, but no one remembers that because what we remember as the final spot was when The Rock delivers a rock bottom to John Cena, losing to The Miz at WrestleMania 27, something that he still won't let us forget till this day. The night after WrestleMania 27, though, on Monday Night Raw, it was announced that the main event of WrestleMania 28, 1 year later, would be The Rock versus John Cena. Generational matchup. A once-in-a-lifetime build was set. We've seen Andre versus Hogan. We've seen Rock versus Austin. But now, to see Rock versus John Cena, running parallels to WrestleMania 18 where Hogan fought against The Rock, the stage was now set. Cena finally found an equal. At this point in the WWE, there wasn't many people that could step up to John Cena. I think the argument could be made Randy Orton, CM Punk, and probably Edge were the ones. But it was rare that these guys would fight. That's why you had someone like Randy Orton and John Cena fought so often in 2009 and in 2007 because for long periods of time, John Cena didn't really have that equal. Their promo battles are legendary and have gone as the subject of studies by pro wrestling fans. Who could forget the Fruity Pebbles remark by The Rock, or when John Cena called out Dwayne for having notes on his forearm that he likes to slap so often because of the goosebumps he gets every single time he steps out into the ring. The Rock and John Cena promise to be, truly, a once-in-a-lifetime event. Filled with everything a pro wrestling match deserves, drama, action, and more, The Rock and John Cena delivered at WrestleMania 28, and it seemed that John Cena would finally get the victory over The Rock, but he kind of got cocky, kind of got full of himself when he was going to hit the people's elbow onto The Rock, but it was countered by The Rock, and he would deliver a rock bottom, earning the victory at WrestleMania 28, defeating John Cena once and for all. And there was rumors and reports years that would follow that around this time in John Cena's career, he was pushing for a heel turn. He thought who would be the best adversary, who would be the best babyface against a heel John Cena, The Rock. With new gear, new music, John Cena was already set to make that heel turn. In fact, it was even referenced in the Kane feud that preceded The Rock at Elimination Chamber 2012 with the whole Rise Above Hate storyline. Ultimately, nothing came to fruition, and it was a business decision to not have John Cena turn heel because you didn't want to affect marketing, you didn't want to affect ticket sales, nor any other type of sponsorships that may have held John Cena in high regard. In hindsight, it makes sense. I get it's a business, but what would it look like with a heel John Cena versus a babyface The Rock? We wouldn't see it then, but I tell you what we would see. Rather than once in a lifetime, they ran it back at WrestleMania 29. This time with the added wrinkle of the WWE Championship on the line, as The Rock was the champion who had defeated CM Punk at the Royal Rumble in January, ending his 434-day title reign as champion. He, of course, would challenge against CM Punk at the Royal Rumble as well as the Elimination Chamber, and would set up the match against John Cena at WrestleMania 29. For me, when it comes to this matchup, and this is me as a fan, no longer as the host of the J Area podcast, I really can't watch this match back. It is a great passing of the torch moment by The Rock to John Cena, but it's so redundant. It feels like a carbon copy of their first match at WrestleMania 28. If you watch WrestleMania 28 and you watch WrestleMania 29, the only thing that changes is John Cena has cargo shorts instead of jorts, and The Rock shaves his beard. Aside from that, there's not really much of a difference. I wanted to like this matchup. I still somewhat do like the matchup. But if you ask me which one I'm going to watch, I'm going to watch WrestleMania 28. It basically gives you everything you need and more. John Cena wins his WWE title beats The Rock, and becomes embarked on his next journey. Because after this, we don't see John Cena main event WrestleMania anymore. This was his last main event of WrestleMania, and the year is 2013. From then on out, he's caught in mid card feuds. But at WrestleMania 30, it wasn't just any mid card feud, it was against Bray Wyatt. And what I loved about this feud and the match is it's a real psychological matchup between Bray and John Cena, diving back into the psychology and a character study of John Cena the man and the gimmick. Bray Wyatt really tries to push him to his edge. Very much so how Two-Face and the Joker, that dynamic in The Dark Knight. If you push them so far, eventually they will fall. And Bray Wyatt really was an imposing figure against John Cena. It was different than The Rock or Batista, who were physical forces against John Cena. But Bray Wyatt was able to match him with the intellect, and of course, led alongside by Eric Rowan and Luke Harper, members of the Wyatt family. It felt like a legitimate opportunity to put over the next star at the expense of John Cena. The crowds were into it. They were very fascinated with this new story of the Wyatt family and how it could affect John Cena in the long run. Unfortunately, Vince McMahon and creative didn't see it that way. They had John Cena go over and defeat Bray Wyatt, which I still think is a monumental mistake. I feel like Bray Wyatt could have definitely benefited from this victory a whole hell of a lot more than John Cena. The damage would be done, and Bray Wyatt would be caught in limbo for a few years, but we'll get back to him. Yeah, I talked about the mid card, and John Cena, having already won the WWE title multiple times over, finally gets to have an opportunity against that United States Championship that he had in WrestleMania 20. Remember when he beat the Big Show? John Cena would be challenging for that US title against Rusev at WrestleMania 31. This is in 2015 now, folks. We are now 10 years after the fact, after he won that WWE title back at WrestleMania 21. This WrestleMania 31 matchup, though, I thought was really well done. It really honed in on the wrestling aspect of John Cena. He's now reaching the twilight years of his career and really was able to implement new moves. I mean, the springboard stunner and the Hurricane Rana, John Cena was pulling out moves like he was a WCW cruiserweight in the 90s. The fact is, John Cena was still that guy. The polarizing response by the fans was still there, but I feel like there was a level of respect earned from the audience because he was willing to do these maneuvers that we have never seen John Cena do. Gaining the victory against Rusev and still becoming the United States champion at 31. John Cena, I think, solidifies himself as probably the best US champion the WWE has ever had. There are arguments for other individuals, but that open challenge in 2015, having matchups against Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Cesaro, Neville, just to name a few, I mean, that was an all-time run for John Cena, and it gave him that opportunity to, again, tell people, I can wrestle, I am that good. WrestleMania 32, he wouldn't participate due to an injury. He would be seen helping The Rock fend off against the Wyatt family. And at WrestleMania 33 in 2017, it was a real forgettable moment in terms of a matchup. The Miz and Maurice would lose to John Cena and Nikki Bella. Remember that relationship on Total Divas? And what I think, again, was a misstep. I think it was a mistake. I feel like the Miz and Maurice definitely should have won this matchup, especially what happens after the match. John Cena, Nikki Bella, who were a high-profile couple on WWE TV and essentially in E! News as well because of Total Divas. John Cena would get down on his knee and propose to Nikki Bella, something that now looking back upon isn't really all that great. But John Cena shouldn't have won this matchup. I still am a firm believer that The Miz and Maurice should have won this matchup. It would have made perfect sense. It wouldn't feel like John Cena piling up on The Miz so much because think of it this way. If The Miz and Maurice get the victory over John Cena and Nikki Bella, they're the winners of the matchup. But now that Nikki Bella and Cena suffer the loss, they're now together in pain and agony since they lost at the biggest show of the year. But John Cena wants to marry her, gets on his knee, and proposes. Very reminiscent to WrestleMania 7, where Randy Savage lost the match against Ultimate Warrior, but he really won the night by reuniting with his love, Miss Elizabeth. I thought that was a missed opportunity there. Rather than having something like that, a sentimental moment there, instead they have him win against The Miz and have him become an afterthought. Yet again, that's now 2 WrestleManias against John Cena. He becomes an afterthought. They have the proposal, It doesn't work out. I remember watching it live in 2017 and thinking this is weird that they're doing it live on pay per view. Because what if it doesn't work out? Spoiler alert, it doesn't. WrestleMania 37 though was a long one. I think people remember the moment after the matchup rather than the match itself. After that, of course, at WrestleMania 34, we get the long awaited matchup between The Undertaker and John Cena. The story leading into it in 2018 was that John Cena didn't have a matchup, didn't know his destiny, didn't know his road to WrestleMania, and instead found himself without a match. And someone the caliber of John Cena certainly needs to have a high profile matchup at WrestleMania. He set his eyes on the dead man, The Undertaker, someone he had not faced one on one at a pay per view since 2003, the Doctor of Thugonomics gimmick that we talked about at the top of the video. He and The Undertaker would have the matchup at WrestleMania 34, and although it wasn't necessarily what we wanted it to be, it was still cool nonetheless to see the two interact on such a big stage. And what was being, touted as one of the best matches of the night, potentially, it really was just a glorified squash match for The Undertaker, who really ran over John Cena in like what, less than 3 minutes, maybe, if anything. The Undertaker continues his winning streak against John Cena. John Cena has a losing streak at WrestleMania, and it starts here, essentially. The Undertaker versus John Cena may not have been what we wanted it to be, but it was nice to see the two participate in a matchup at WrestleMania. It's just a shame what we were robbed of, because that should have been a matchup a long time ago at the show of shows. But that was WrestleMania 34. John Cena would not have a wrestling matchup for quite some time. Instead, at WrestleMania 35, he would make an appearance as the Doctor of Thugonomics. And at WrestleMania 36, it wasn't necessarily a matchup, rather, it was one of those cinematic matches. And it was against our old friend, Bray Wyatt. The Firefly Funhouse still goes down as one of the most talked about matches of the pandemic era. And I talked about a character study for the WrestleMania 30 matchup, but this right here really defines that character study. We dive into the psychology and the psychosis of John Cena, the man, going all the way back to his debut, his potential heel turn in 2012, and then the psyche of him no longer having what it takes to be a top guy. Bray Wyatt mentally and physically dissects John Cena in every aspect of the matchup, and I still think it goes down as probably the best match of WrestleMania 36. What is most fascinating about this matchup is there are many details that were further called upon following the matchup. In fact, since John Cena's recent heel turn, a lot of people point back to Bray Wyatt and his words of wisdom during the build-up and during the matchup itself. So shout out to Bray Wyatt for really opening our eyes to what was right in front of us. John Cena's next matchup wouldn't take place at WrestleMania 37 nor at WrestleMania 38. It wouldn't be until WrestleMania 39 in 2023, where he would lose to Austin Theory for the United States Championship. Again, another callback to his WrestleMania 20 match. He was the opener of WrestleMania 39 and what was a forgettable matchup, and really started this whole train of nonsense for John Cena. He hadn't won rather, a matchup on pay-per-view for quite some time. In fact, it's been 2018 being the last time he won a singles matchup on a pay-per-view. After that, though, John Cena wouldn't be seen in terms of a matchup. WrestleMania 40 was the last time we would see him, and it wasn't even for a matchup. He appeared during the Bloodline Rules match for Cody Rhodes as he would defeat Roman Reigns, ending a 4-year title run that will be talked about for generations to come. And from then on out, Johnson's been making sporadic appearances on WWE TV, with it being announced that he would have a retirement tour, a farewell tour in 2025 as a way to thank the fans. At the Royal Rumble event this past January, he vowed to win the Royal Rumble and challenge for the WWE title, earning number 17, something no one has ever accomplished in the WWE. There is Ric Flair, but he didn't win the WWE title 17 times, but I digress. John Cena loses the Royal Rumble event to Jey Uso, who will be challenging Gunther for that world title. Becoming desperate, John Cena announces his participation in the Elimination Chamber matchups. This is something different. Usually, John is the type of individual to want to earn his spot. Doesn't feel like he's above anybody else. But in this moment, a rare moment, John Cena says, I have earned that right to be named in the matchup. And he says that him main eventing WrestleMania is what's best for business. Eerily, eerily revealing his intentions right then and there, but we didn't see it. Cena places himself in the chamber, gets the victory on account of Seth Rollins attacking CM Punk and setting up the STF for John Cena, who quickly, and might I add cowardly, takes advantage of that opportunity, defeats CM Punk, earns that WWE title match against Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 41, and when John Cena is met with Cody Rhodes and essentially The Rock in the ring after the matchup, when it's decided that Cody's not going to turn heel, he won't align forces with The Rock, it happened. John Cena turns heel for the first time in 22 years, aligning himself with the final boss, aligning himself with The Rock, who he had 2 matches at WrestleMania with. Rather, 1 match for 2 different WrestleManias, but you get what I mean. Turns heel, joins Cody Rhodes, and now we're set for WrestleMania 41. John Cena, Cody Rhodes, the WWE Championship. Will Cody Rhodes continue a year-long title reign, or will John Cena finally win number 17, setting himself apart from everybody else in WWE history? But I would love to hear from you guys in the comments. What was your favorite John Cena match or moment at WrestleMania? Be sure, if you haven't already, give the video a thumbs up and like the video. Comment down below, like I said, what was your favorite John Cena matchup? Subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure you stay up to date with all the pro wrestling content that we produce here on YouTube. With that being said, I want to thank you guys for joining me on this video regarding John Cena and his WrestleMania resume. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.